All right, good morning. It's June 21st, 2023. We're here for Lake County Schools LCEA bargaining. It's 9:13 a.m. Appreciate everyone's patience as we took a couple minutes to get going this morning. We will send you a copy of this agenda that we distributed today. I listed all the items. There was kind of some overlap of, I figured we were coming back with everything we needed to come back with, and then whenever you guys need to add in or interject at any time, feel free, please. So we'll start off. The attendance sheet went around. We've been using that for documentation rather than call and roll. Haley's still finishing up the minutes for 5/24. She should have those to you very soon. We'll send those over to you. So last time you guys brought articles 4 and 5, and that's where we'll start today. The professional compensation article we have to present today with counter proposal on some language in there. Intertwine. I know our school psychologist issue. It kind of flows into several areas. Some of the appendices, the salary schedules that we presented last time, and then also they'll flow into the MOU at the end also. And then I've got some things that was kind of clean up, which was the MOU we did for the additional girls sports, just adding those in to one of the appendices. And then in additional page supplements, that's where our psychologist proposal will come into play also. And then finishing up, I know we've still Article 1 and PERC issues, get an update from you guys on that. Leave and SEIU, how we worked on that. I have a portion of leave proposal today, but all of the language for what we're going to do for donation and buyback and all that. I'm not complete on that, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about what I'd like to propose to do with that as I bargain with SEIU next Wednesday. And then the teacher support plan, we're waiting for our new Miss Cockcroft to come on board, who is Mr. Flowers. So we'll need to set up a time and get him available. He starts July 1, basically will be his first day in office, or I can't remember if that's on weekend or not this year, but so we'll need to get with him in July and really start to hammer it out. I've already, he knows that's on the top of the priority list coming in. So perhaps, I went back and looked at some of the stuff that we currently have in contract with that, and we can talk about then what we want to do as far as that goes. So we'll start off with Article 4 and 5. And they would pass out a copy of that. So I'll go through and discuss some of what's new and what's not as far as what you guys' proposal was. Section 10, we were in agreement with you guys' proposal, so that's not changed from your proposal. And then on the Article 5, I need a little help on Article 5 because it gets a little confusing under, yes, you delete all those, delete all of the dues deduction section, but then the rename of it as payroll deductions, you see at the top. So it starts to get a little weird when it's talking about everything, because it said things will be submitted to both you guys and us. So I went through and tried to clean that up, because if we have employees that are making just general deductions from something that has nothing to do with y'all, you know, we want to guarantee them those slots, but I don't think y'all want those going through you. I mean,
They never
I have a
that's
feeling
why.
y'all got, yeah, I didn't think
I
they
mean-
probably had. I mean, you know, I don't know if like things like when people are garnished or if, I'm not exactly sure what all comes through or what those deductions look like, but I know y'all got the addition of a bunch of paperwork coming your way. But at the same time, I want to respect that there are times where vendors that are friends of you guys, business relationships, that they would still be able to use those. And I don't know if that's something you want to be able to convey to the people you have business partnerships with, that that's happening. But so that's where it gets a little confused, because B, I was like, well, the board will deduct authorized amount and equal deductions, teacher salaries, check. I mean, that, the purpose of this additional deduction will be for a program of employee economic benefit, which is arranged through LCEA. So I don't know. Is that something you guys, I don't have a feeling one way or the other. I just want it to be clean. And you guys have got way more additional paperwork responsibility coming your way in your life anyway, so I don't want to add to that if it's not necessary. But I still want you guys to have the information that you need. So I propose that we strike B. And then, but I wasn't sure about D at that point then. Because if there's still, you know, if a deduction is related to their relationship with you guys, I still like the idea that we'll be indemnified from that relationship, so I chose to leave that in there. So I know I'm rambling on. Do you guys have, reading over this, do you have any suggestions or things that can make it cleaner?
Yeah, you know, products are even in this group.
Yes, this would be, for example, and I'm one of them, American Fidelity, I think Liberty Mutual, sometimes there are some people that go through automatic. And I know that Suncoast was wanting it, the possibility of using also. So I'm assuming this is the same way, like, if an employee has anything taken out, an employee, so this. Okay, so the language that's coming back would be, for example, any employee could have 3 additional slots if they wanted. They could
Correct.
go to, if they have a regular bank that where Lake County Schools puts their check, but they could put they could have $100 taken out each paycheck going to a credit union. They could pay for Liberty Mutual. They could go to Aflac. They can go to wherever, but there are 3 additional slots that an employee could use.
And the only change in that first paragraph was I struck in the last sentence of A. I put the onus on the employee will be responsible for providing. So that's a change from what you guys presented, because I doubt y'all want that.
Right. And as far as I know, I don't think I've ever really been involved with any of that. It's just the fact that, like, well, several years ago, when you and I had conversations starting with American Fidelity. And I think that was just a conversation because of this, I don't know. But that's the only thing we've ever really been involved in that I can remember.
Well, and I think that, to me, if it's 3 deductions, it's 3 deductions, and if they're required to provide the authorized paperwork, then it doesn't matter what the purpose of that additional deduction is for economic benefit or through you guys, or if it's in competition with our health and hospitalization program. So that's why I felt like B didn't need to be in there. Because I mean, if I think of somebody that goes out externally and gets a cancer policy, whether it has to do with us or y'all or neither one of us, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right?
Right, but your payroll deduction slots are usually limited and named, that there's certain programs that you can benefit,
This is
that
true.
people can use. I believe that's what this is talking about, was in the eighties, when we started getting involved with Liberty Mutual and Creative Benefits and stuff, we wanted to have a way to get some of our products into payroll slots, because then you guys are collecting the money and sending it off. So that's what this is about the union naming 3 slots, and it sounds like 2, Liberty Mutual and American Fidelity are already on your approved list. It's not about each individual person choosing deductions, this is about,
Now that you say that, yes, I do remember there's some restrictions on. So would it make sense to, even though it sounds funny, to leave B and that would hold status quo?
right,
Okay,
but I mean, like, it is, the employee has to. Sign up for it, like you say, if you guys decide to participate in Aflac, they have to sign up for it. And then you withhold or the ones that do the additional life insurance. Again, this is all through your open enrollment where you let people designate slots. I'm assuming you have quite a few of them. I know one had over 100, one district.
okay.
A lot.
So,
So it's basically, if we name American Fidelity as one of the union sponsored slots, we're holding then. You guys, harmless against any problems with American Fidelity.
right.
The person can't say, well, you did this thing and this is a bad program. You didn't put it there, we did.
So on our counter proposal, what I would say is just that change from LCA to employee in section A, and then we'll add back section B. And that should pretty much cover us for 4 and 5.
And when you look at what's left in 5,
Mhm,
like 4 sentences,
mhm.
4 paragraphs. Does 5 not really belong in 4? I mean, you have a whole article on payroll deductions when it only talks about one particular thing, which is naming. Most people incorporate that into their association rights clause rather than a full separate article.
I think I want to take a look at that because what's happened
It seems weird.
is, and that's what cause I thought the same thing a little bit. I was like, okay, well now we chunked out this huge piece of it. And I want to be cautious because in my naive youth, I've made the mistake of rolling too many issues in articles before. And then all of a sudden we feel like we're full book again every time we open an article, like 10. Yeah, so that was probably helpful to you guys, but it did not help me a whole lot. So let me, but I don't,
Remember the whole contract?
so
Maybe next time.
yeah, and plus, who knows, maybe the tides will change and we'll be coming back and this stuff back in, right? So I'll make those adjustments, and if we get to a point we're signing off on some things today, we can clean that up real quick and TA off on it if we're good with that.
I do have to tell you that I made a typo
Yes,
in Article 4, Section 10. I missed job title in that list. So it has, their name and their work site. It's supposed to, I got so slap happy with typing out phone
okay,
number and address and moving that into the could potentially be restricted column. I forgot to add the job title, because without the job title, it'd be very difficult to do the perk paperwork
well, and I think he includes the job title.
in the data
already.
anyway, exactly.
So
So that was me
clean
making
that.
a typo.
Okay,
In section 10, job title.
job
Yeah.
title to that list of
Yeah.
things.
Okay,
So if we counter and say restore the add job title, then it'll be a clean copy.
Okay. That's correct. Okay, next we got professional compensation come around, this is Article 12. I kind of proposal there. Okay, so professional compensation, kind of proposal, what you guys put forward. Before there was a 5-year limit, on, salary credit for social workers, speech pathologists, and speech and language pathologists and psychologists. We agreed to the year for year experience there. Section 4, you guys proposed the verification of experience must be received by the board within 1 year of date of hire. We were okay with eliminating that, and, you know, the language is already there that, you know, it, is only retroactive for the fiscal year that it's received. And proceed to, section 11, which is health, hospitalization, and life insurance. This is where I need to do some cleanup from last time. Okay,
You just said okay with section 4, but it's struck. So you're not okay.
no, I'm
with
sorry.
change.
Hang on.
And section 5.
No, I'm okay, you guys struck it, because it says it must be received within 1 year. And I'm saying I'm okay that you guys struck that,
Okay,
does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay, it's kind of hard, I know it's hard to follow when we get in all the strikes, underlines and all that good stuff.
And then section 5.
Okay, that was section 5, I'm sorry, I skipped over. Not okay with you guys' language on that. We can't get past the incentivizing somebody to leave. And it's something that the board's not interested in. So. Section 5. Is part of the change that you got proposal. And then section 11 is some of the cleanup. When I proposed compensation last time, I tagged on from language from last year that there wouldn't be an increase in premiums. What I was aiming to get across was there's no increase in the percentage that's paid. Because we've got current contract language that says we pay 95%, you guys pay 5%. And what was board approved through the new plans in section B, which is changing to the HPI plan. I put in there that copay and then I struck that out, so that's my strikeout, but this updates the language of the plans that we offer accurately. And within that, what was board approved, some people's premiums could go up or down based upon what plan they chose. So if they went to the new copay plan, it could go down. If they went, you know, to one plan to another, you know, what they pay could change, but all things stay the same in changing the plans, and the 95% of that base 3559 plan stays intact. On section E or section E, you guys have proposed presenting on the 112.08 filing. We're countering back to strike that proposed language. And just we can have the general overview of that in our insurance committee meetings, but to, you know, the depth of that filing, I think could get a little bit difficult without interpretation. So I think, we'll go over it, but at the end of the day, I think it's just a smaller piece of what, you know, Josh, whoever the vendor may, or whoever the broker may be at that time. Coming in and helping us understand what's being recommended, as far as changes. And then the attendance bonus, that's struck, and it'll be part of, you know, buyback and different things that represent on leave, moving forward. What questions do you guys have? So hearing no questions,
I guess the only question I have is section 5, I mean, I realize that it's in the statute, but we have a lot of employees that do not take time off. I know many of them do, but we also have employees that do not take time off. That basically, you know, they lose the time. And therefore you don't have to pay that time either. And so the district is making money on those people. If they've got 100 hours, let's say, that they have not used, then that's 100 hours that you have not had to pay for them for that hourly wage. They lose out on that time. And I guess depending on what you're offering, you know, later on would depend on these things, because the only way that you're gonna get this is if you know, retire or beneficiary, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, you get into drop, you get into things, you know, like that type of idea. But even some of those, I mean, once you have drop, if somebody doesn't take their 10 days each year, they're gonna have days that's gonna be left over too. And I mean, some people are struggling with this. And you know, because then what do I do? You know, do I just take those days off then at the end of the year and then make somebody else, you know, suffer for that, which we're finding a lot of teachers, you know, do take the time, and then they're struggling because then I have to cover somebody, or I have extra kids in my classroom. And, you know, sorry, but administrators make sure, well, I'm only gonna put 2 in your class, so then I don't get paid extra for it, and it just continues and continues, and the people that struggle then are the teachers, because then they don't get the extra money for anything that they're doing.
well, I think this is, first of all, that's the statement of the district's making money off these people, I would have to absolutely disagree with. But I can tell you, this is not something that the district's gonna be able to get in line with. For one, just the fiscal liability of it year in, year out. What you're gonna see, if you're paying out people that are leaving this district, that money's coming from the general fund. So if people are leaving this district to go elsewhere and that money's flowing out of the general fund, that's gonna hit the teachers that remain here in the district when we go to provide compensation to the people that are here. So I can tell you that's probably not a road that we're willing to go down at this time. And it's I mean, leave time it's nice that there is, you know, statute in place to pay it out upon, you know, either a tragic death or retirement. You know, however, that leave time is for when you're sick, and it's for when you take personal days. So, I mean, that's what the significance of it's for. So we'll have to, I think, we'll have to take the risk up front that you described rather than the immediate liability that could be imposed on the district if people are cashing out. I mean, you think of the turnover that occurs and hopping from district to district. And if they're leaving and not retiring, that means they're going to another district and they can transfer that leave time over to the district that they go to. And if they come back here within 5 years, it's on the books waiting on them, come back. Cause we're seeing in recent days and weeks, we've got people that are playing games with terminal leave payouts. And it, you know, what's to say that somebody doesn't leave, takes a terminal leave payout, and then they're coming back, you know, I want to go on a cruise. I know it's easy to be hired as the teacher and Lake County needs you. So I'm going to take my terminal leave payout, resign, and trust me, I'm seeing this close to happening. And then I want to turn around and secure employment and come back. Who's to say that that won't occur, right? So it's just not something. I think the purpose of the leave is what it is, and I don't want that purpose to, you know, show itself in a different way.
You said something about 5 years. So you hold on to those days. Somebody leaves here, goes to Seminole.
Yeah.
If they don't ask for those,
Correct.
but then they would come back 6 years later.
It would
It wouldn't be there, but if they came back in the 5th year, it would be there.
Correct.
So you hold on to those hours. We go by hours
That is correct.
for the 5 years.
Yes. So, but if they transfer their leave over to Seminole, then they would go through our contract language to transfer it back in here. Yeah, charters and privates, it doesn't transfer, right?
Right,
Because they
right.
have their own, they could have their own
Yeah, they
crazy
do their
ideas
own.
about school community.
Yeah, they do their own.
Any other questions on professional compensation? So the next section is on leave of absence, and that's the whole section that, we're still working on donation of leave. And which we met in our subcommittee and, with SAIU and you and us, and we agreed upon that we would move forward with language that allowed for donation of leave, beyond, just family members. And the pieces we're still working on are, the leave incentive to, leave buyback. But one of the key pieces that I want to speak to today, though, as we come to that article, you guys had proposed 3 days of bereavement leave. What we're going to counter propose is, 2 days of bereavement leave. And so just so you know, that's what you can expect as a counter proposal coming back within that whole leave of absence category. And the 2 days was arrived at looking at, you know, what's done around the state, what's done at the, you know, at state organizations and things like that. So that's where we arrived. The limitations will exist in that, and, you know, using it within 30 days, using it, we're trying to make sure we got the right matched up language as far as, you know, whether it's immediate family or, you know, adding in that, member of own household. So just know as that comes together, that's what you can expect to come forward. You know,
That's what we're talking about. So that's not yet written up.
no, it's not in the final form where I'm ready to put it
Will you
forward.
be able to do it tomorrow, or is that something that'll have to come later?
The bereavement piece, I can come tomorrow, yes. As far as all of the other, I'm still working on that in preparation. My hope is, what I would like to do, and I don't know, I want to check on you guys' availability at the end. If you guys were available maybe for the first hour to come to SEIU bargaining next Wednesday. I don't know what you guys' schedule looks like to go over the leave issues, but the true upfront monetary value of what you guys have proposed, I felt like was that bereavement. So I wanted you guys just to be clear on that today, that that's what will be coming forward. And the rest will be very similar to what we've heard in the past of buyback at 80%, the number of days you can use and what you've got on the books and things like that. But this is the key piece that's really different than that. There might be some back and forth over, so what's come around, so last time we proposed the increase in performance pay. So what we did was put it into Appendix B where it lives, to formalize the proposal. We added, language in there above it that says performance pay is based on an individual's final summative rating from the 2022-23 Lake County Schools Team Instructional Personnel Evaluation System. Because we have questions every year, and I know you guys do too. We have somebody come from Brevard or Orange or wherever, you know, can they use an outside evaluation system from ours, and they can't get a raise from last year. So that clarifies that point. Below in the table, the amounts are the same as what was proposed last time. And then the rest is just striking the rest of that Appendix B, from last contracts. Sure.
Is that, is the team instructional personnel evaluation system, does that include SSP?
Yes,
Yes,
all that's included there.
classroom, non-classroom.
All your instructional contract people are in that.
What about the rest of the Appendix B?
I'm sorry? Oh, here.
Because it goes on, the placement schedules in Appendix B, the advanced degree.
We-
in Appendix B, as well as psychologist.
We've got that, those, hang on a second.
So they're just in a different file.
Oh, it went,
It was just attached.
it was attached to
So the Appendix B, the remaining of Appendix B are still the proposals, and they don't look any different from what we put forward, last meeting.
Okay.
So,
So this kind of completes that.
yes,
proposal.
that completes that proposal. The last time we just kind of put, it didn't fit into, it wasn't labeled the right way and didn't have any clarification language on there. So the proposal from our May 24th meeting, that still stands as is. You know. And if you call it, it raised the advanced degrees, by master's degree from 2375 to 3000, specialist to 3950, and doctorate to 5000, and then struck out the old, and the numbers on those and the language about the additional advanced degree.
We don't have that.
From last time.
Oh, it's page one.
that.
Yeah.
That.
I thought it was-
So the only difference in what was proposed last time was correcting the health insurance piece that hung on the back side of that. Okay, now, appendix C. There you go. So what you'll see on the second page of appendix C, this is all our athletic, differential pay schedule. It's on the second page. So this is where we had the MOU that allowed for the additional, to assist with our Title IX purposes, allowed the additional sport at each high school of one of three out of their choices, which was beach volleyball, flag football, and wrestling. We memorialized that in MOU. Now it was a temporary MOU. Now we want to memorialize that in the contract. So you'll see on the second page, those sports are added. However, they do have they have footnotes added to them that discusses that as of this coming school year, that they're permitted to have one additional FHSA approved girls athletic team. And the team may choose to add flag football, wrestling, or beach volleyball. I think we had 5 that add flag football, and then we have 1 that added wrestling, and the others didn't choose to add, probably based on lack of interest. And then, but what I wanted to also put in there is year in, year out, we'll have schools that sometimes they want to substitute or do things on their own a little bit. So we added the footnote G. The other approved sports has been on there, but we put district approval is required before schools may add or substitute one FHSA team for another. You know, sometimes I've even seen where the principal's the last one to find out that they made some of those decisions. So, you know, we are seeing some, I hate to take out the other approved because we still do have Title IX, you know, issues, and we got to get those numbers up. And there's new interest coming in from ideas like a crew team and things like that. We've got plenty of access for those types of things. So we still want the freedom to be able to get those folks involved. And that's an exclusive female sport. I did not know that. Learn something new every day as far as competition with FHSA goes. So, so that's any questions on appendix C? It's pretty straightforward.
And I'm just assuming that you looked at some of the other coaches, assistants and so forth to come up with the monies associated
Yes,
with
they're
them.
in
Because I see
line.
some of the same
Mhm,
throughout.
Yeah. That's correct.
And I'm assuming you just said, well, this is similar to this, so we're gonna give them that stipend.
Best we could.
It matches other.
Yeah,
You know, there's a couple things that matches other, but also you don't want to get into, you know, all of a sudden you're paying boys wrestling more and girls wrestling, and then I got all kinds of different Title IX issues, right? So
right.
those were the things we had in mind. Okay, so the additional paid supplements. Coming around, this is, I apologize, it's just that this is part of appendix, D, right? That's, I labeled it, file saved as that, but this was a portion of that. So, you know, on the first page, the site-based mentor piece, as of now, but rather than cause additional confusion when we come up with what we're gonna do moving forward, when we meet with Mr. Flowers and kind of probably subcommittee, what this piece looks like. You know, I know that what I've heard from you guys on site-based mentor is that the 1-to-3 ratio is heavy, all right? So, especially with the volume of new teachers that we've got coming in and obligations that are associated with that. So I think that's a piece that will carry forward into, some committee on that and some side meetings as we kind of lay out a foundation of what that looks like, and anything that's bargainable that comes out of those planning meetings, you know, we can subcommittee and then bring back. And if we need to do that in the MOU, or we need to do something, because it'll be prior to ratification, so we can just come back together to hash that out. But that is an area we know needs attention. So if you move forward to page 3. This comes in pieces, the consideration that, as far as a counter proposal to what you guys put forward on, our school psychologist. So just because it's there and it's the primary issue that you guys identified as is monetary, value. So what you're gonna notice is that it does mirror the language that comes along with speech language pathologist. It does a couple things, right? That language, you guys proposed 5,000 and we're countering back with 3,000. But it also provides 750 for your folks that split about halfway down the middle right now that do not have that certification. So there is a benefit to that. The other piece of this, so I'll go ahead and tell you that you're gonna see when we present our critical shortage MOU that we update every year. You guys are added to that critical shortage MOU, which provides an additional $750 to all school psychologists. So as you start to add it up and combine with, if you've got a specialist or you've got a doctorate, you're seeing some increases on your salary scale there also, right? So it's, believe it or not, probably not too far off when all things are said and done. But I do want you guys to understand, so that it's not a valuation of what you guys are worth by any means. I know exactly, you know, how important that you guys are to us, but I don't want to, we've got shortages everywhere. So as we look at, you guys presented some pretty hefty language on retention and recruitment bonuses. I think what we're looking at is when all the dust settles from ESSER, our eyes are on, okay, what can we do for all of our employees, especially the ones we need to recruit and retain? So you guys will be in consideration on that for sure. I don't have a timeline on that. I talked to Mr. Ward, I bug him constantly about it, but I think it's just too soon. And you'll probably see, and I know Angela will probably hear it all over, it's probably that most districts are waiting to see what happens when the dust settles, how much money's left over, and then get it to the employees. And that'll be the notion. I think that's what the board wants to do also. So the recruitment and retention didn't fall on deaf ears, but man, I need to recruit and retain my math teachers, my bus drivers, my reading teachers, my program specialists. Heck, we got to do it. We need everybody. So I just wanted to point that out. Yes.
So the third bullet under that, says any school psychologist without any CSP master's degree receive an annual $750. There's only a few people that have like the master's plus to make up for the EDS, like, so more of us are holding the EDS and.
I think what we're trying to say is that those who don't have against CSP, everybody else will still get something additional, correct?
Correct. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I don't know if it should be the master's degree.
Any school psychologists without NCSP will receive an annual $757.
We all have.
Don't get the master, it's a requirement of the job.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the same. I agree, because I was going back and forth, right? Because when you look at, when you compare it to what happens with an SLP.
Right.
I was trying to make it, I know that the master's was unnecessary language because it's condition of employment, right? But at the same time, I was trying to keep it somewhat, but
I know what you meant, I just.
Yeah.
Working at it. We have to have it regardless. So.
yeah, and I'm aware of that.
So we'll strike out master's degree.
That's
Without
fine.
NCSP receipt.
Mhm. Yeah. So, but with a master's degree will be struck. If it's, as our proposal.
Thank you.
So then it goes to, make sure I got all my points. So, and you guys are on your own salary schedule, right? And I know that that's adjusted to, to account for having a master's degree, but then there's also some additional on top of that. And then there's some years that SLPs are swallowed into compression a little bit more on their additional years by remaining on the traditional salary schedule also. So there's a lot of things we looked at, and we want to make sure we're being fair to everybody. So moving from there, I understand the workload and the ratios that you guys present, right? So I just continue to do more homework, and like you're saying, nationally, it's a 1 to 700 ratio. But the national average, that's the recommendation from the association, and then the national averages come out to 1 to every 1380. And then the Florida state average ratio right now is sitting at 1 for every 1960. Now, we were closer aligned at the beginning of last year we weren't there, but we were closer aligned. We were about 1 to every 2071. That was in August. So I know we lost some people after that. I know at the lowest ratio, what was reported, it was pretty high. We were at 1 for every 3960. And if all 25 of our allocations were filled, we'd be sitting pretty good at 1 for every 1091. So, I definitely understand and get that, we've got issues to work on there. We don't have any additional funding to contribute to managing the ebbs and flows of the ratios. The goal is to get the ratios as low as what we can get them to. But in talking with Dr. Landry and her staff, I feel like some of the language that you guys put forward, a lot of that is likely happening. And in the day-to-day of how they're making sure that, they're considering, if someone resigns or how those requests are initially assigned. So they want to make sure that, is it true that from what I understood in my conversations with them, your preferences are requested coming into each year, right? Is that correct? And then if they try to keep you in a logical region, unless otherwise, determined by some extreme demand or by your preference, is the way it was explained to me. And then if there does need to be a redistribution, that they consult with you guys before that assignment is made. Is that all accurate?
I would say it's accurate.
Mhm.
It's also like the best case situation. Like
Yeah.
this year was, I would think for all of us, unusual year because we lost far more than is typical. So like that ratio, when you're saying it was 1 to almost 4,000 was atypical, but again, this year we lost a bunch. So like for proposals, our goal was never about the ratio, it was about getting people to come to Lee County
Mhm,
and then stay here. So like, I think the NCSP helps, we attract some people,
mhm.
like, I know the ratio thing was hard to understand, it was for us too, but like. It was a concern, that this year we were pretty much working as two people for one, basically. It was a very challenging year for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So like, our goal is always to get people to come and stay. We lost 8 people this year.
Yeah.
Because other people, other counties paid better and they offered, guarantee of 2 schools per person, which we can't possibly offer. We can't guarantee that, there's just not, it's not possible. So our goal was, how do we make people want to come here, and then they're here, make them want to stay here.
Well, I think that lends to, I think we're working on that with the compensation, right? But at the same time, I don't want to put something in contract that's not feasible.
I understand.
So what I'd like to do is continue to chip away, get people hired on, see if we can work those ratios down. And then not have them disappointed that they come in and say, well, I'm gonna grieve you now because you're not hitting this ratio, when at the end of the day, I know it's the stress of, there's kids on the other end of these issues, right? And it's, but there's only so much you guys can get done as far as, as far as in your, however long a day you're working that day, there's only so much you can get done. And if we're meeting our time limitations on getting those things done, we just gotta keep chugging away and trying to improve upon it. So I think we understand the workload. We just don't I don't wanna hinder things. And if we're adding in a bunch of layers of language of things that are happening, and I don't think our administration doesn't desire the supervision of dictating how that work's done, if they're getting the work done. So,
Honestly, out of all the things we presented, the ratio was our the least important,
yeah,
because the goal was to get us to 25. We
Okay.
want to get fully staffed,
Yeah.
and the ratio is irrelevant.
okay.
So the hope with the ratio is we would never have to use that.
Exactly.
Well, I think what I would like to do is just we keep open lines of communication, and we, if there are things that are happening that are appropriate, then we handle those.
As
In
far
absence
as-
of language.
As far as like assigning people within the same region, if
Mhm.
there are additional coverages that need to be happening. I would say for the most part that's been this year, but I do know of some cases where, somebody works predominantly in region 2 and then they're at the very bottom of region 3 covering a school.
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be more thoughtfulness
Yep.
in choosing where people go. For instance, I know somebody had schools in region 2. There were some other openings in region 2. They were like, if the other school is 5 minutes down the road, like I'm more than happy to cover that one, but they were sent to the school at the bottom of region 3. So, there just needs more thoughtfulness in how we assign somebody to cover those additional. And so it's like, okay, well, maybe they have a little bit of smaller of a caseload right now, so that's why they're assigned there. But yet the travel time to get there, I mean, you're paying mileage and all that, and the time and all that energy and effort to go to one school.
I'd like to add to that, like sometimes we don't stay at one school all day because we have multiple schools. So if you're at region 2 school, we have to go to a meeting, preschool, you've driven an hour to get there, so you've wasted an hour of your day, just traveling to schools.
Well, and that's something we'll continue, like I said, that we'll continue to have those conversations with student services, and I had a pretty extensive conversation with them, and I get it, you get, all of a sudden you're managing personalities and schedule conflicts, and so you might wind up with a off scenario with that, right? But it doesn't need to be the rule, it definitely needs to be the exception, so. So we'll definitely convey that back and stay on top of it, along with, making sure you guys have good, solid designated spots to work in, that we won't lose that along the way. And these principals know, they've heard about it, they get the messages, and they'll hear it, several times more before the school year starts for next year, so. That's the main thing, is that, as far as a working condition, that it's uninterrupted when you're working with those kids, unless there's some extreme emergency, right? There are gonna be some new things we'll see on you know, they've been busy around the state, and as of last week, you know, they are working on what threat assessments are gonna look like next year, so we gotta wait and see how that kind of pans out. So that's gonna be interesting. I know these guys will be waiting on kind of what that's gonna look like for them. I've heard there are elements that might streamline the process a little bit more, and that will help determine on the front end whether something is necessary of a true threat assessment or not. So hope maybe that some of that work will come off a little bit. And also I think as we see the kids settle back in, hopefully some of that will settle down also. And then the last piece I'll speak to, there was one bit of language, and I want you to know that I heard it, right? But it's the prior notice to a reassignment in an area. At the end of the day, I mean, you know, we're gonna have things that occur I'll convey that to them. Look, we need to be mindful in that area too. Try not to spring things on people unless it's automatically, you know, where a kid's not, something's held up with a critical issue with a kid based on a reassignment that, you know, they are giving you guys, you know, good notice on any reassignments or additional, you know, changes in responsibility that occur. Any questions on appendix D? Yes.
There are no other changes in this document other than the ones that were underlined, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Cause I saw, I don't know if this is a typo, but up in the science fair area, there's like an underlying section there, so I didn't know if there was something underlying there
All right, hang on one minute.
that was deleted or. Where it says number of students. 6 to 10 under Lake Regional Science Fair.
What else?
It says additional 58, but there's like a. underline.
That may be in the.
I didn't want that space there.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Typo.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't touch that piece, so we'll clean that up.
It's one of those tables that are, you know,
Uh-huh.
so easy to fix.
And
Wait.
then,
You do an underline within the table, sometimes it's hard to see.
the other question that I had related to this, and please correct me if I missed it, because I know I didn't read the last session, but was there any discussion about, the history?
The history fair
Yeah,
supplement, no, we have not.
Okay.
Any other questions on appendix D? If not, we'll, memo of understanding, we only made 2 copies of this, right? Basically, the memo of understanding annually that we do for Title I, is unchanged, $500 for the Title I schools. And then the critical shortage bonus, we will propose to add psychologists to that critical shortage, group that's in parentheses below that receives the 750. So unchanged, other than adding the psychologist to that group.
And these are still only based on what Lake County has concerns, issues, whatever you want to call it, in hiring these particular areas.
Those are the
These are
areas.
the main areas that you're having trouble with.
Yeah, today or yesterday or. the
Well,
day
and
before.
that's the thing, like I know, for example, you know, you have one thing of math. But I know other math is hard. I also know that, you know, intensive reading teachers. I mean, I know it's hard to decipher a reading versus something else, but intensive reading is easy enough too. And I know that I mean, they struggle, or if they're there a few years, they say no, no more. So I'm just, it'd be nice to know that why these only particular ones are on here versus was, for example, I mean, I know like psychologists, we've been talking about it, and so they were all last year, they were short, understandable. So these other ones, I mean, do they have the similar kind of data then? As that, or were they worse, or were they, I mean, I'm just curious, I guess, as to
I would say.
how
yes.
these particular came up and only these versus something else like intensive reading.
Well, I think ESE is plain and clear the dominant.
Correct, correct.
Critical shortage, especially in the area current, of, you know, the self-contained classrooms and things
Right.
like that. You know, psychologists, you know, obviously we've distinguished that, speech language, those are issues that if we don't, then we're contracting out, right?
Right,
Science, I think just traditionally, chemistry and physics, finding people that are willing to come out from outside professions and have the skill set to actually teach those. I imagine these high school principals are probably about kind of tough to find those. And then math is pretty much the algebra, calculus, you know, all those areas of math that high school only math are really difficult. CTE areas, same thing, getting folks in from the outside that can teach those things. You know, the one lingering piece is TV production, that's a little odd that's on there, but I can imagine where that was born out of, but so yeah, I mean, there is strong consideration on it. Could this list grow off the page and then become unaffordable? Absolutely. Cause then I'd be like, you know what? Let's give everybody $1 and take the rest of that money and contribute it towards their salary, right? So, so that's how we arrive at that. I mean, it's funny because you look, the state every year provides, usually late, some type of list, right?
right,
But
and that's,
but it's everybody at this
it's
point,
everything,
right?
right?
I mean, I know it, you know, it's come to a point where, you know, especially my secondary schools that now they're struggling to find social studies teachers. It's wild, right? It's a little bit of everybody.
Is it really wild considering?
Considering
Surprising, I just said wow.
In
shortage everywhere.
Yeah, so
I mean, like literally, if they teach curriculum incorrectly, they go to jail.
Didn't go to jail.
this is true. But it's,
Raise the stakes on social studies teachers immensely.
yeah. Yeah, it's probably not a real exciting time to jump in, right? So it's, I mean, that's where we're at. Do you guys want to share anything? As far as what you're seeing or the accuracy or?
Just exactly, I mean, most of us talking is ESE and math, is really what our struggle is, ESE and math.
It's those two areas, I think they keep Keanu Peterson up at night, like every night, so.
And I guess two other, I don't know, clarifications, I guess.
Okay.
I know it says the high school algebra,
Mhm.
so is that both the A and B, only A, only B, only,
So
It's A and B.
that's why we didn't put algebra 1, we
So
put
it's-
algebra.
High school.
high
Yeah,
school
high school
algebra,
algebra.
whatever that entails?
We go to
Okay.
the course codes and we identify all teachers teaching course codes of algebra at the high school level,
The high school.
ninth grade and above.
So if it's an 8th grade,
They don't.
They don't get it.
Not them.
No.
If you got 8th grade algebra class, you
Yeah.
kind of loving life.
Yeah, you're, yes.
Just putting that out there, or 7th grade at this point, right? Now these kids are,
And then I guess my only other clarification is because we have. We had so many complications, let's call it, last year. I know there were other. Reasons behind, but the supplements caused some issues last year. So I'm wondering if this MOU, for example, should say in there as to they are paid out here and they're paid out here and they know when they're gonna be paid. So that at least these are not,
That, and this, I'm totally on that, this is my fault.
just because of
Cause
the
Scott and I have been
clarification.
talking about this all the way up to this morning. What I would like to do, is add some verbiage in the professional compensation that clarifies that. What I was gonna ask you guys, why I did not put it in here yet, is where it made sense to be located. To my folks that have to reformat every section. You know, I was fine to just add it as a section 16. If you guys are okay with that, and then it will be just on the end of Article 12.
That stating,
Basically, it goes into, the verbiage would align to, any bonuses or state provided. Or things like the civic
Any
stuff,
supplement.
employer costs will be deducted out of those amounts and signify what had been clarified as far as that civic piece went.
Okay, and that would take care of that, but we also have confusion, I think, also as to when they are paid. Like if they're paid, like sometimes it's a lump sum, sometimes it's prorated, sometimes it's. So, and I mean, they're so confused about that. And even if, for example, even if it's only these two, because it is a special MOU,
I got it.
at least these could
Okay.
say. This is paid out in one lump sum, this is paid out. Portion one semester, next semester, whatever these and whenever they're paid. I understand the 16 for this one where it
Okay.
says that
Okay,
Lake County is, per state statute, whatever, Lake County is, can take out. I don't know what they call it, but it's the,
we'll do that. So what we can do, we'll add a bullet under each title. And under the amount, an additional bullet under that says whether it's spread across the whole year or whether it's one lump sum. And then anytime we do that in MOU move forward, we'll make that clarification within the MOU.
at least, like I said, at least they would know, because most of the time. I think, anyway, with the supplements for, athletics,
Yeah.
they're used to that, they're used to, and it's. And it's in there and they know,
They know it's paid at the close of the
they know it's
season and all
paid.
the boxes.
Says that.
I mean, and
Yeah.
it says,
Yeah.
but some of these other ones aren't
Okay,
stating as such, and they get very confused.
okay, no problem.
That's the only thing. Yeah. Okay. I guess another clarification then maybe, the ESE. Sometimes we get phone calls about the different with the access and the behavior support. So if they're called an access classroom per se. If an ESE classroom is using access, it says that, correct? No one else should be using access, in other words, that would not receive this.
Aren't they worded as intensive
It's
behavior? support or
IST
something?
and ISTB.
We have to do.
Like intensive academics?
So,
So should it say that?
I think it should
Yeah.
say that,
We can change
so
it
that you
to
can
IST and
at the end,
ISTB.
be specific, because we have other teachers that call us, say, hey, I teach access, how come I'm not getting this
Okay.
extra money?
Like they have a couple periods of self-contained and then a couple.
Worded exactly as the classroom is.
Well, this was the classroom.
And it says,
So
yeah.
it'll be teachers that are in IST classrooms
Classrooms.
and ISTB classrooms.
Okay.
Because we do, when you get into the weeds of things, you might have some. You might. What's that?
Are there any others? that
Go
you-
ahead, what do you guys,
We're just talking ISTB is behavior support, and that's not always an access classroom.
That's, and that's what,
That's what
we don't wanna lose sight of the classroom
Right.
piece of it, right?
So you have to be careful with that.
Yeah,
So I don't know if you wanna, I don't know if you're talking about putting that in there, or taking it out.
Well, and it does say classrooms with subjects for all 4 subjects. So they would be teaching, it would be a self-contained,
Behavior does teach all 4 academics.
yeah, that's what it says in here. So an ISTB classroom that's teaching all of their 4 subjects.
This year, we've got ISTPs that are support mainstream, so they're not all self-contained.
Yeah, they're acting like a VE teacher for
for behavior.
Depends on the
kids.
needs of the
Those I think for the people are calling us like,
So
can
then
I begin this?
That should.
for identification purposes, I need to look at the assignment, plus look at the whole roster of that teacher.
And I think leaving classroom on there, an ISTP classroom, because they're not in a classroom, they're rotating, like in classroom.
And we ran into some of this, so we're used to digging on it
Yeah.
because we ran into it with the TAs last year.
Correct.
So. So we can make that change on them.
And again, on the other one, I mean, it might be okay just to have them the 16 to clarify, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what I want on 16 is I'd like to add the section 16 to the end of that on Article 12 that says any state provided bonus that doesn't include, basically it's gonna be that the employer costs are gonna be taken out of it. That's a
Paid
direct,
through district payable.
yeah, that's paid through district payroll, so,
It comes directly from the governor, and even further.
yeah. So otherwise, he's dipping in without permission, so, which I guess, does he need permission? And,
Well, that's the problem. This DOE figured out they don't have a way to pay employees without issuing 1099, so they went, wait, no, just you guys do it.
yeah, they thought they wanted that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they make up rules and then go, oh, no, we should talk to accountants first.
So we'll work on tagging that on the NR. So that's what we have from our proposals, counter proposals.
So we'll need more
Okay.
time, but for my list, it says you're going to retain 12, 18, and the MOU to make changes. That were discussed. It just said leave of absence, still
Correct.
waiting on some stuff. but-
Yeah.
And then we can
12, 18,
12, 18, and the MOU
and the MOU for,
that they can retain, and then we can take the others and work on what we talked about.
Correct.
No, we have nothing else.
Mhm.
So we're
Because we
good.
were waiting on
Yeah, well, yeah,
things.
I still have 3 job titles that I needed to get answers from Guido, which was. What happened with the occupational specialist job? Did that job title change into something else, or is that a deleted job title? And then there's one that's called homeschool liaison personnel. I'm assuming that that's now called a teacher, but I had some guesses that I had sent you.
We don't have a homeschool
yes,
liaison,
Call it a deleted title?
yes,
Okay, cause I just didn't wanna delete it till I knew for sure what it was.
and we don't have occupational specialists.
What about the homeschool liaison personnel? Is that just hospital homebound teacher?
Probably, yeah, it's just teacher, hospital only.
And that's just an extra. That's an extra, like a supplement, you do it on the side.
So it's not a job description.
No,
No,
the teacher.
There's not
It's teaching.
full-time.
no, it's extra. It's a homebound child that may have something for
Right,
4
but I
weeks.
thought maybe there's a few people. who did.
there might say
They-
you have a kid that super duper expelled, right? But we're still required to have services and they're not in the DJJ type scenario.
Mhm.
There might be somebody providing some services somehow or another, but usually it's teachers that are current outside, they'll go in the evenings and do those kind of
Right.
things.
And is that in our supplement? area at all, or list like the supplement for homebound?
Now there's pay for it.
Pay for it. It's, to me, it's.
They're hourly rate, teacher hourly rate.
Right, like hours a week.
Correct.
It's pretty minimal.
Yeah, the bottom had pre-K resource teacher, you had one teacher, but no job description yet. Did you ever find the job description and the date that it was adopted? No, and then there's two more job titles that show an adoption of date added, but shows nobody in those positions from the data. So. When I sent you the Article 1 for PERC, I highlighted a bunch of like, once we have the answers to these questions, I can send it. The draft off to our legal department to make sure that it's filled out correctly before we ask anybody to sign. Because normally our lawyers do this, but they're kind of a little busy.
They're busy.
Just a little bit.
So you wanna, we have job description for pre-K resource teacher.
Yeah, there's missing job description for that one, and then the program staffing specialist and the technical trainer. There's a job description, but one of the things that they ask is how many people are in that job. And I have no numbers for those people, so are those positions that were created but are currently vacant? Or like, do you anticipate, you have 5 slots, there's not filled? I don't know.
I'm trying to find the email with the state that so that I can reference it.
It has an attachment to it. And it would have been right around that May meeting. It was 5:24 when we went back and forth on the discussion.
Yeah, when it says that I have an
So
attachment.
I have 5:24 Article 1 with list from PERC that I sent to you and Chad and Kathy and Elizabeth.
Okay,
And then you sent me back the list about here's how many people are in each of those additional job titles, and then you sent me the link so I could get the job descriptions, but those highlighted ones are just I don't know where these exist.
so occupational specialist, no. Department chairman, no, that's a supplement. Homeschool liaison, no. And then regular and part-time teachers in the educational center.
Right, that was a deleted position,
That's
because the
deleted,
site was
yeah.
closed, right?
Yeah.
If you look down below at the bottom of the page, the PK resource teacher. There's no job description, and then the last two, the program staffing specialist and the technical trainer, there's a job description. But you had no employees listed in those jobs.
One thing we have, we don't have pre-K resource teachers, so I don't. That's what they operate.
There.
Now they have just a curriculum resource teacher. Signed to pre-K.
Or did they just become the pre-K teachers? Now that we have one. Pre-K.
I really would be curious what a potential specialist is. I mean, like, they might be special someday. Curious too.
So they
You
can
brought that.
cover a variety of different positions. They can be in the counselor position, they can be in support of like the specialist, like.
Right, but there's a program specialist job description, but there's also a potential.
The potential specialists are like school assigned,
Full time.
Yeah,
and they can take on a lot of different roles.
they're a mixed bag.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
these are your added units that the school gets to decide.
pretty much it.
And sometimes the end of it says coordinator.
See, I wouldn't do an extra for that, I would just call them program specialists and give the school the flexibility, you can name two that you need or something.
But the difference, I think, we try to keep program specialists at the district level,
Right.
and then potential specialists is at the school level, same type deal, which, yeah, it depends on where you're at. If I'm at a middle school, I'll probably get a little testing about
weird
it, test, but I don't know,
It's really a school-based specialist as
Yeah.
opposed to a district-based specialist.
it's a mixed bag.
And then a school testing specialist. So I'm assuming that a school testing specialist is something that you fund in your, oh, brain just went blank. The assignment of jobs and programs in the school, that everybody, certain people get a testing specialist automatically, and then those other ones are just more flexible.
Well, high schools have, they have a
That's what I'm
full-time-
saying, is like,
Yeah.
they kind of are all similar, but, so a middle school that had a potential specialist could say, I want them to be a testing specialist.
that could be part of their duties. Then they could also be handling some overflow of discipline. They could also be doing some additional planning, coordination of events. They could be, assisting new teachers. They could be doing, it's a mixed bag when you get out there and look at what they do.
Jack of all trades.
Yes. So he's going to check to see what he can uncover on teams.
So the only thing left to talk about is the teacher support plan.
Yeah, that's really just us getting together with Mr. Flowers once he gets in his seat. What I would imagine is, him, some of his district level staff, and then also, pulling together some principals, from our end of the world, and then, you guys having the availability to bring some people along. I could see it kind of morphing into similar to what you guys done, some smaller focus groups, to see what that looks like.
And you're talking quite a few, so that would be more similar, maybe to the team committee. Or the insurance committee, kind of, it's like, because you're talking a few people, as you're saying. Or if it just starts as that and then goes into something smaller, but
Yeah, I think, I want to talk with him, because he's gonna be driving the boat on a lot of what that looks like, and see what input he's interested in. Because I don't need it raining down on him, but he needs good solid experts from you guys' side and the district side and the school side. So I think we would probably need representatives on you guys' part from each level. We'll have representatives from each level, you guys probably is like a higher level input, and then we do the same. So,
And that would probably be in July.
yes, it's gonna be in July, we know first week in July,
it's, yeah.
so as soon as, he gets in, we're already communicating with him, so we'll start aligning that and see what his schedule looks like, see if we can get something on the books.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you guys,
Second or third week. Yeah, it looks like. That'd be probably second or third week, it looks like, because the last week is. Launch and everybody's busy doing. Everything.
so next Wednesday, we're bargaining with SEIU, it's Zoom. It's
Okay.
not in person.
Okay.
So we can send you the address for that. That might add some convenience for you guys. And we'll occupy the first hour to leave talk and things that are combined issues. And hopefully coming out of that, we'll be able to send something over and resolve all that.
What time is that?
That one begins at 1 o'clock. Guess I should have said it.
Okay.
Will I have the answer to the pre-K?
Okay,
They're teacher. There's not a job description because it falls under teacher. We have 2 staff members under that.
okay, so if you don't have a job description to supply, do we just leave that off the list and call it teacher?
Teacher.
We're not going back that direction, though.
Because we don't need to add it to the list if it doesn't have a job description.
Yeah, it does
That
not.
hurts y'all. The denominator.
And then the last 2 were how many program staffing specialists and how many technical trainers?
Program. How many program specialists?
Yeah, program staffing specialist is the job title. And then technical trainer. We want to start looking at dates while he's looking at data.
Yes,
So are you still okay to meet tomorrow? I mean, can we come back and, because we
We
could
should
get
be
some,
able to have a few. of them
because
ready.
we could have some things ready to come back tomorrow and, maybe have some things finalized.
yeah, I think we can come back tomorrow with some amended documents and hopefully have some things to sign off on. I'd like to. I think like everybody, conversation going forward, everybody's mind, right? So.
But we're gonna need something in July to finish up the article on leaves after you meet with SEIU.
Correct.
And, well, continue with the mentoring anyway, so.
Yeah, because we don't really have any language saying we're setting a committee. We probably need to do just a quick MOU this as we're setting a committee.
Okay, all right.
We can just add that to our appendix D and we put all the pieces together in one file.
So which week did you say, Kathy, that works for you guys?
Well, it would need to be the, second or,
I'm only available the second week of July. Or like, I have July 20th open.
That 10th through
or
the 14th, or
24th,
10th through the 14th?
I have 10 through the 14 open
Okay.
and then just spot days here and there.
Let's, wanna aim for the 12th?
well, yeah, time and
Mark's gonna
location.
be in our office, so this would then be back here.
And I'm seeing that there is a visioning committee that is scheduled to be here for foundation, Ed Foundation.
I got to be in our office. Well, that might be wonderful, right?
Conference room supposedly here, right? Yeah, because Ed Foundation is larger.
And
so-
and you have to go to that, don't you?
And I'm usually there.
Well, what
So
time
other
is
than
it?
noon. And I don't know how long they have that scheduled.
Does
for.
Thursday work better?
I don't know how, I'm just saying, I mean, it's.
Thursday would probably, we have a hiring event at Mount Dora High School that day,
On
so,
the 12th.
yeah, so the 13th might work better for us. Or Tuesday, either one.
Thursday, the 13th. is better for us.
Okay.
I either do one on the next one.
So, yeah, so the, these are, but his name, especially, I think that was the. We don't have those anymore.
Okay.
Have those.
So-
Could make it like 9:30 or 10, just in case I have bad traffic.
Yes. Staffing specialists.
Morning was a little scary.
I think
Well,
what
the rain didn't help either.
That's what I mean. I had checks for the crazy things.
we've got it, he's going back and forth with somebody down the hall. So basically, what used to be staffing specialists are now ESC school specialists. It's kind of old lingo that's, blending some things.
Okay.
So,
That are ESC program specialists.
There's still ESC stuff in special.
You already have a job title called ESE school
Yeah.
specialist.
that's,
Yes,
Yeah.
what,
that's what I'm trying to make sure that I'm giving you the correct numbers.
so,
You just give them to me tomorrow and then I'll have
You know
everything
what?
drafted up, just attach those, that
Correct.
last piece. Cause mostly I need to get like your right address and all of that stuff, but once
Okay,
I just need legal to go, yes.
technical trainer, it's no longer, those are instructional technology facilitators.
So it's a deleted job title.
Yes, technically, they're
We don't
all,
need that.
we still have the old title, but we don't use that job description. We use the instructional
Right.
technology facilitator.
And these are jobs that were added to the perk cert, so if these are defunct titles, let's
Get it,
not
yeah.
add them.
There's no-
That's-
Yeah, we have 5 of the other titles.
Right.
Okay? And then what I gotta do for you tomorrow is give you the numbers on the staffing specialist, correct?
Yeah, the right title.
The right title.
number.
Okay,
So I did pull the job description for program staffing specialist from the link you sent me.
correct.
So we go back and have time to work, we should be able to have proposals ready.
Okay, yeah, either way is fine, and there again, I'm thinking of the subcommittee too, so we might be able to have.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Earlier in that week, there might be able to be like a smaller subcommittee or something if you wanted, even with. Mr. Flowers with the mentoring stuff or whatever.
On Tuesday?
And then if you want to do the Thursday, use the Thursday for the bargaining.
Yeah,
It's-
let me check with him, let's,
That's fine.
we'll make note that the 11th. We can get him in and talk about some of that, at least get some,
Especially like in the morning.
I just don't,
Oh, I understand.
I'm a little worried that cause
Yeah.
I think quality is gonna be more important than probably throwing a few dollars or redirecting a few dollars at it. The quality of what that looks like and whether or not we can get the right people and you guys get the right people in second week in July to provide input. So that's why I didn't want to wreck the current mentoring stuff that we have. So if it bleeds over into the year and we gotta work that out, then we work it out and figure it out as we go. So we're tomorrow, 9 AM at you guys' place with some corrected documents and hopefully we can get some TAs. All right, and then we have the 13th solidified for TA at 10 AM here. And if we're lucky, maybe we can be good to go. And we'll check Ms. Flowers on the 11th.
What's your process afterwards for proofreading the contract? My process is that I create a working contract as soon as we start this. As we TA things, I will start to hang it in the contract. How soon would you guys be ready? Because I'd kind of like it to be reviewed before we put it out for ratification so that we all have the same documents. So I think, I don't know whose schedule I need to get on, but we need to either set something up either by Zoom or in person just to double check and make sure both of our TA packets look the same.
Okay, so you're saying coming out of the 13th,
Yes.
I would say we would set up a Zoom probably with you, myself, Haley, and probably I think Elizabeth does a lot of that. And
If it involves a computer, Elizabeth's involved.
and we and I think they'll probably, I imagine they'll be communicating ahead of time, so it shouldn't be too extensive, so,
But since Haley's new to this, I just want to know, like,
yep.
check and make sure that we be thinking about that tomorrow, looking at least a couple of hours that we can do that.
Okay,
And it would be easy enough to do by Zoom with one of us showing the screen and the other one checking theirs,
Yeah.
and,
okay.
because I hate to drive 3 hours for a half an hour meeting.
So coming out, maybe that following week, we could set up a Zoom. That
The
works.
only date I'm available that week is the 20th, and the following week, the 24th. I am
Let's-
again living in Seminole.
Let's nail down the 20th.
In the morning?
Whatever works for y'all. I've got board member meetings that day, so I might be in and out, but I'm probably not gonna provide a whole lot of that anyway.
Say 10 to 12, and then we're gonna have plenty of time.
Okay, is that all we've got for today? If so, we'll go ahead and end things up. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Is 10:49 on June 21st, 2023. That concludes today's bargaining session.